Welcome to Liberated Land Use, where we're imagining a future in which land is not a tool of exclusion, extraction, or inequity, but a partner in justice, belonging, and abundance. Rooted in anti-racism, pro-Black and Indigenous principles, and a just transition framework, we're making room for transformational change, emboldening you to reclaim the policies and practices that shape your neighborhood, your city, and your life. We're your co-hosts, Yodit Mesvin-Johnson and Jessica A.S. Lita. Friends, hello, Liberated Land Use. I missed you guys last month. Oh, I had a life and health hiccup that kept me from being here, and I've asked about 10 people how the conversation went and what they thought, so it's nice to be back with you all. Just taking a breath to bring myself into space. I've been excited about this conversation for a month / 3 months / 45 years, so it's really nice to be here. First, I want to say hello. Going to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about session goals. Would love for folks to drop in the chat things that you're comfortable sharing. Would love to know your name, your pronouns, if you'd like to share them, what land you're tuning in from. There's a lot of us from Southeast Michigan, but not always. If you were with us in the last session or watched or listened since, we're curious about anything that stuck with you or stood out to you. And then to bring us into space today, curious what word you use the most when describing aware. And this question comes courtesy of one of the many beautiful brain bumps that I had the first time reading Braiding Sweetgrass, when I realized that in all of the places I would have used property, Robin Wall Kimmerer uses the word land. So I'm curious, when you think about place, space, land, property, what word or words do you typically use the most? Teresa, I think we're ready for the deck. We have a companion document to help folks follow along with the conversation. We know that these can be dense conversations. I want to appreciate Teresa now and probably many times throughout this conversation. Teresa Krugler, part of the Future Root team, and is helping facilitate our conversation and the chat. Yodit and I realized very early on that our brains and technology selves were not big enough to have both the conversation and the technology. So thank you, Teresa, for really holding up our bootstraps on this one. Here we go. I keep losing track of the conversation, you guys. I'm so happy to be there. I gotta my internal puppy self is on, so I just gotta bring myself into space. Oh, okay. So we are here on native land. If you are in North America, if you are on Earth, you are on native land. Teresa, you can move it forward a little bit. We want to acknowledge the land that we're on, but we're working to learn how to do that in meaningful ways. One of the ways that I wanted to kind of bring us collectively into space was by naming the lands that I have been on that have brought me here. I'm currently on Three Fires Confederacy land. Thank you so much, Teresa, appreciate you. But I'm originally from unceded Cherokee land, still unceded, no treaties, or any kind of recognition on the land that I'm from. I'm also recently made aware that my hometown is what's now known as Atlanta, where I'm mostly recently from before moving to Michigan, is a place called Stone Mountain. And I learned this last month that that was the birthplace of the modern day KKK. And I felt like I learned a lot in that moment about my deep curiosity and sense of urgency around race as a white person in the South. So that's brought a lot of that up. But I'm trying in this conversation and in others to reach into deeper roots of understanding where I'm from. And I'm encouraging all of us to do the same as well. We are here with the Future Root team. I am joined, as I mentioned, by Teresa Krugler. We've also got Liz Trudeau, who is the glue that holds us all together. And whether she's here with us or not, Marcella Owens-Bikibi is a crucial part of the team. And we are also joined, not today, but in spirit, by Anna Boyd, who is in the process of graduating with 2 master's degrees, and is doing some background research for us on the history of planning in Ann Arbor. And we're very grateful for her time. My beloved friend and colleague, Yodit Mesfin-Johnson, is here. If you're wondering which one she is, she's the one either with the sparkliest glasses or with the most like energy in the screen. That's Yodit. Together, we are Future Root. Yodit and I have collaborated for a very long time. In a couple of years, we decided to make it government official and formed a group called Future Root. And in this role, we take on a lot of different projects, but all of which work to catalyze people who are building cultural, economic, and political power, specifically at the intersections of race, place, and history, to reimagine cities and create more just futures. All of the projects we've done together, Liberated Land Use is the first one that came entirely out of our own brains. Everything else has been kind of responding to projects that other folks have done. And so I'm delighted that Liberated Land Use is Future Root's sort of first independent project. We are here on Zoom every Thursday, first Thursday of the month at 12 p.m. We've got this month and next month as our last remote conversations of this version of the series. And then we've got an in-person event at the end of June that we'll talk a little bit more about. With Future Root, we're operating on a pretty specific theory of change. And this is a manifestation of both Yodit's and my work, experience, and best understandings to date. Through deep listening, shared learning, and collective action, we really rest our work on the foundation of reckoning, remembering, and reimagining. Reckoning in the sense that we are looking at the systemic harms embedded in traditional land use planning processes. We confront the legacies of racism, colonialism, and supremacy that have shaped our cities and neighborhoods. It is important for us to look our worst histories in the eye, but it's also important to remember the histories of resilience, innovation, and power building within Black, Indigenous, and other marginalized communities. We are working in this series, and honestly in all of our shared work, to draw on these traditions to inspire new approaches. And finally, we are working every day, every moment, every project, every conversation to reimagine land use and our relationship with land as a reparative, inclusive, and participatory process where policies are co-created with impacted communities. We know we're going to the heart of some pretty painful processes and experiences on this series, and that's sort of the point. We want to poke at what hurts to see if we can illuminate more about how we can do things differently. Oh, sorry, Teresa, I'm ready for the next slide. Appreciate it. The slides help me know what I'm supposed to be saying in this moment, even though I do know in a way. So I wanted to kind of bring us into this moment in the conversation that reckoning, remembering, and reimagining is also the arc on which we've built the Liberated Land Use series. The first 2 conversations were grounded in reckoning. The second 2, which this is the second of the second, is remembering, and the final 2 are the reimagining. How are we taking what we know and what we have recalled about ourselves and ourselves collectively into our imagining of new, sacred, deeply connected, and belonging cities. Session 1, called Exclusion Collusion, was where we discussed our goals for the series and reconnected ourselves, and hopefully you, with our collective stories and relationships with lands we're all on. Dr. Matthew Countryman, who I'm delighted to see is here again today, joined us to go deeper on land use planning's history, to examine its ties to systemic injustices, and to deepen our shared understanding of how historical injustices continue to shape contemporary land use and housing policies. Session 2, one that will always be close to my heart, just ends require a nonviolent means and language. In this session, we pulled back the curtain on the ways that traditional community engagement fails us, why it often feels extractive, performative, or just straight up inaccessible. We unpacked the language of how the language of land use and housing policy is designed to exclude, and the very processes meant to serve communities often reproduces harm instead. especially for people whose identities have been systematically pushed to the margins. Speaking of margins, session 3 was Margins to the Center, Governance Through Deep Connection. In that session, sadly the one that I missed, Yodit, in conjunction with Mama Shu, explored the power of deep connection and how it can transform our understanding of governance by bringing those at the margins to the center. And I will name that I'm a little uncomfortable with that language because we're not bringing anyone anywhere. We're actually meeting them where they are. Maybe we're recentering where the center is. Anyway, it's a work in progress, but I just wanted to name that. I really appreciated the conversation with Mama Shu of Highland Park's Avalon Village, exploring one non-traditional form of development in Southeast Michigan. And this was the beginning of our shared imagining of governance, not as bureaucracy, but as a sacred act, one that's grounded in care, rooted in justice, and alive with possibility. Which brings us to today. Many of us have been taught to see land as something to own, to use, or to extract from, not something to be in relationship with, let alone right relationship with. But long before colonization mapped political boundaries, paved roads, and commodified the earth, there were older ways, uncolonized ways of knowing, living, and relating. Ways that honored our land as kin, as teacher, and as memory keeper. This session is hopefully a journey towards those ways. Together, I'm hoping that we explore how traditional Western land use, in quotes, practices have broken our relationship to that land, to each other, and to ourselves, and what it means to return. And today we are so delighted to welcome Dr. Megan Pizer, citizen of the Choctaw Nation, and tribally affiliated, with the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma and co-chair of Oakland University's Native American Advisory Committee. Megan will share the story of the project that we're here to discuss. It's a Native American Rematriation Heritage Site whose name means all our relationships, all our relationship. Megan, I just want to do extra syllables everywhere, apparently. All our relations, the place where we all grow. And the name of the project, imperfectly, is Getanua Mug Kanananik and Dajakiang. Megan, can you help me? Okay, we've got a
That
clap.
was
So
perfect.
thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the help practicing. Okay, I'm going to breathe for a moment. And I also want to invite Yodit into the conversation now because this is an ongoing conversation. Honestly, this feels like just the latest iteration of the one that you and I have been having since the first day we met, when I sort of girl stalked you at a talk that you were giving for the Urban Consulate. I'd been wanting to meet you for a while. You were talking about honor and place, and I'd love to bring that into space. But our preparation conversations for this have really ranged far and wide. And so maybe I wonder if I can start with the question. I feel like, and this touches a little bit on that talk you were giving as well, indirectly, our public discussions, when we are doing community engagement around land, I feel like they are broken in part because our individual and collective relationships to land are broken. And when you and I were talking about this conversation, it led us into a deep consideration about the lands we're on and the lands we're from. And I'm wondering if I can invite you to talk a little bit about how today's conversation resonates with your roots.
Well, first of all, welcome back, friend. I missed you last month, and I can feel your fire today and your excitement. And thank you, everyone, for being with us. I'm going to answer your question, but something that is on my heart, and I just want to call our collective energy towards, and I think it is a good segue into our opening here, Jess, is I want to call in our beloved friend, Anasa Troutman, who is the CEO of the Big We Foundation. She is based in the US South and has been organizing and reimagining the historic Claiborne Temple in Memphis, which sadly had irreparable damage this week due to a fire. It is a 130-year-old building that was the last site of Dr. King's organizing before he was assassinated. And he was there with the sanitation workers strike, sanitation workers who were striking. The propaganda image of I am a man was born at that site. And sadly, a week before that, Anasa's home, her domicile, was also burned. And so while we don't have anything conclusive, I am just thinking about just the and reflecting on the collective grief that's happening in Memphis. And it has everything to do with the meaning of that site to the people, right? It has very little to do with what block it's on or what neighborhood it's in or any of that. And everything to do with the significance that of that site for Memphisonians and specifically for Black Memphisonians. And in terms of thinking about, our topic and how it resonates with our roots, what was really energizing for me, as you all, when you are running a business with one of your dearest friends, most of our meetings, y'all, are just us like going deep on topics that really matter to us. So we started talking about where we were from. And I think lots of folks know I grew up in my formative years in Detroit. Um, that Detroit is also known as Wauwiatong. And my relationship to Detroit had a lot to do not with zoning or planning or any of that. It was a relationship to place-based power. My family spent tons of time in Belle Isle, the large city park, in backyard gardens where I was, planting flowers with my mother and my aunties. It was, I'll be honest, hide and go get them with the boys in the neighborhood, running the blocks. Everything was tied to um, uh, proximity to friends or to family or to community. And um, you know, sites that mattered to us, like the Black Madonna, which was the Shrine of the Black Madonna, which was where um, the equivalent of church was for us. And our public discourse wasn't about ordinances or zoning. In many ways, it was about survival and safety, and our safety being tied up with one another. When I was coming of age, the police didn't come to our neighborhood. So we had really tightly knit, neighborhood block clubs and the likes. Our parents were union organizers. Like everybody was fighting the man, if you will. And we didn't name the oppressor necessarily, even though it was everywhere. I mean, I grew up uh, between 7 and 8 Mile, and between Southfield and Evergreen. And those were redlined areas. Those are areas of disinvestment. Both my elementary school and the middle school that I went to, which was a magnet school, are now closed. And it really wasn't just until I moved to Washtenaw County that I started to hear what I would call polite conversations, but really dog whistles dressed up in planning speak. Um, so I have that dichotomy of being very proud of being from Detroit, right? And that pride being tied to um, a relationship between community and land. They were always in dialogue with one another and rarely in the way or the language or the topics that I later found myself in when I got to Washtenaw County. How about you?
I often think of when I was 12 as sort of my inflection point for the why of everything that came after. My parents, who were, um, I'm going to say, uneven hippies,
Mhm.
bought a home, which I don't think They had no aspiration to be the man, but they didn't really question the American dream. And with three kids, getting a home in the suburbs felt like the thing that you were supposed to do. So they did, mostly my mom, and moved us out there. And that was the beginning of some of the most unsafe and disconnected time in my life. I wasn't going to school in the neighborhood. I was busing 45 minutes to an hour and a half every day. And because I was both invisible at school and in my neighborhood, that invisibility led to a lot of disconnection and unsafety for me.
Mm,
When I moved to Ann Arbor, which is when I was around 30, I was 29, I discovered a city where everyone had opinions, which felt amazing because
mm,
folks were deeply invested in their community. Whereas in the South, and particularly the neighborhoods that I was in, it it investing in community wasn't really a thing. Like you invested in your church or
right,
maybe your
right.
HOA, but
Hmm.
not community as an idea. Consumerism was way too much of a priority
Mm,
for that to kind of really take top seat. And in Ann Arbor, everybody having opinions meant they cared about this place, which was cool and rambunctious and took a while to sink into. But also the scale of moving from a place like Atlanta to this place like Ann Arbor is that small voices have bigger impact. And this
yes,
is really kind of where I discovered policy. I don't think I knew really, like I showed up to vote every 4 years, but I don't think I knew
that's
policy
it.
was a thing until I got here. And I was thinking about, I've never stopped thinking about that disconnection and unsafety when I was little. And as I have, Maya makes an audio cameo sometimes, my big black puppy. Um, as I was thinking here about, how do I both find people who may be disconnected and finding that kind of that unsafety through invisibility, and also what can I do to help build connections and weave community connections that help keep that from happening. And a lot of that is helping folks build language around place, right? Like I have lots of policy ideas, but what I really care about is can we talk about this in ways that matter? And what I was shocked to discover when I went to my first public meeting, my voice shook. I typed it out so I knew what I would say and not cry. I cried a little bit. Um, but I thought we were just having a conversation. And what I learned about land use conversations is that they are not just rambunctious, they are some of the most toxic of our public discourse. And that was and remains deeply troubling to me because if we can't talk, and this is not like civility tone policing, it's not that. It's that we are not connecting as humans in a lot of these rooms. And I really appreciated, and I'll say this and then I'll pause you deep, but I appreciated something that you've said both recently and frequently, which is that when folks talk about policy or land, or really there are a lot of things, one of the things you listen for is how is this going to help my people? And it's
Mhm,
difficult to make that argument in land use policy. It's diffuse, it takes a long time. There's
mhm,
often not direct evidence for what we're trying to do. And so where part of where liberated land use this conversation came out of is that you and I feel like the process needs to be worked on as much as the outcomes.
mhm.
So that's kind of what brings us here.
It's only in this moment. So I just want to bring this in because there are some intersecting pieces. Like we were both in bigger cities
Mm.
as younger folks, right? And I really appreciate you naming the size and scale. I remember when I was working in Detroit and I turned more of my attention locally in Washtenaw County because of my perception that I could have more impact, right, in the
Yeah.
work that I was doing around racial justice. And I also want to just bring in age, right? And agency. Like by the time you get to Ann Arbor, you're an adult, right? And you're in a different space and you're bringing different experiences. I just know that for me, growing up, that the connections to land were very much for me more tied to experience than they were to policy. And I think that's where I struggle here is that because for me, land is not I didn't think about it as a thing to own. I thought about it as a source of belonging.
And that took me a while to get there.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm often asking, you and I my mom's birthday is this weekend. She passed away over 20 years ago, but I feel her presence a lot. And I think I feel it because I have the same dynamic as she did, which is I'm a solo mom, with a single kid, right? And I remember when I uncoupled from his dad, that the things that were on my mind are like, where will we be safe? Where will he see other children and people who look like him? It wasn't just about a house, it really was about a spiritual connection, between my kid and what this house signified for us as part of that phase of life. And I don't hear those conversations come up as much. In fact, what I think is a lot of times our implicit values around this are what we're actually dealing with in meetings, right? Even though the topic is like zoning or whatever. John Powell, who I love to invoke, the civil rights activist and founder of the Othering and Belonging Institute for Othering and Belonging, really talks about how we all want to belong, but colonization has taught us to pursue belonging through dominance and separation. So when I moved to this house with my son, the things that I was paying attention to were, one of the first things I noticed is these two braided trees. They had just grown together, but there were two, and I was in grief. I was leaving, a long-term marriage, really trying to think about a place where my son could bloom, and trying to reconcile with the absence he was going to feel of his dad not being there. And so this home became a partner and a teacher and a place of reflection. I wasn't thinking about, would someone, I don't know. I mean, I got to be honest. I've said this before. A lot of times zoning just feels like white people shit, like shit white folks talk about. I have never, before you and I became friends, ever sat at my table with friends and talked about zoning. It wasn't made for us. That's not just my experience. Like it wasn't made for us, and its roots are in othering, and it often reflects a very monolithic white-centered idea of what a neighborhood should look like or what should be in a neighborhood, what's safe, what's worthy. And even now, folks that are trying to fix zoning often they lack a racial analysis. Activists who are working in that space are more focused on winning, in my opinion, than on justice. And that's why I think we need to think about a relationship like land use versus land and us. It is also something I'm reckoning with as an activist and organizer. Where am I contributing to the disappearance of indigeneity by myself participating, whether on purpose or not, in being a settler, right? I just feel like we continue to kind of tinker around the edges of a system and practices that are rooted in exclusion.
I would just like it to note that zoning is some white people shit. I really wish that could have been the title of this episode. And I remember, like, every time you say that, I nod vigorously. And I also check in with you. I'm like, what does that mean? And I have critiques, not necessarily specifically about zoning, but Ann Arbor is currently going through a land use planning process. Shout out to the folks on the call. I see some people on the team who are here, and we really appreciate you being here and hanging in. I know that these are sensitive conversations for a lot of folks, and you in very particular ways. I think about these rooms. I think about how hard they are on everyone. I don't think anyone leaves a public conversation about land use with a deeply regulated nervous system. I think we all go home needing a drink and a nap. And like that's the system operating as it's intended. But I think that's also where we're kind of getting lost in the sauce of intent versus impact, where we're working really hard to get to an equitable and just outcome in rambunctious, harmful room by rambunctious, harmful room. And to your point, what you just said a second ago is spot on. If we each individually have not done our own internal individual reckoning and unpacking, as descendants of colonizers and or inheritors of resource extractive assumptions about what land means, what it's supposed to do to, for, and with us, if we don't understand what equity means in a practical, applicable way, we are complicit in harm. And I say that as somebody who has been a housing activist and organizer for 10 years and is
Yeah.
constantly trying to invent for myself what it means to do that in an anti-racist way.
100%. I want to get our guest in here. And I also, when you said intent and impact, um, the this is why people shit is like my individual experience of being in spaces. But what I think the two things I sort of want to call us to is really how are these systems influenced by a valuing of whiteness, right? That
Right,
whiteness, not white people. Like
right,
there,
whiteness.
there
Because
are places in other parts of this country where zoning conversations are happening with all Black folks or what have you, but they are still centered in whiteness. And that's
I
really the thing we got to interrogate.
That's so true. And I think about zoning almost identically as a language. It is a tool.
Yeah,
It in itself does not inherently hold value. As a tool, it reflects our intrinsic values and beliefs,
the
and where
values.
that
That's right.
necessary unpacking comes from.
And still, even my best comrades who I know are organizing on towards justice are often doing that in very homogenous places. And if you and you pushed on the idea of margins, I just want to invoke Bell Hooks, who says, while margins are, excluded from the whole, they're also sites of innovation. They're sites of radical imagination. And so I hope we can reclaim that as pulling them into pulling folks who have been pushed to the margins into the center is what's at the root of abolitionist thinking. It is not, we design with and not for. And too often, to my earlier point, folks are in spaces designing for me
Yes,
on my behalf,
yes,
and it is not benefit.
right.
For example, the comprehensive land use plan, although one of the most progressive in the country, will not reconcile the erasure and invisibility of Black, Indigenous, and Brown folks. And as it gets more expensive to be here, it's a more white city, period.
Mhm.
And
Right,
folks, like really well-intended people, are working on that plan, right?
right, right,
So that's
right.
what we're interrogating. Woo!
No,
Juicy.
you feel it? I feel it in my shoulders.
Juicy, juicy, juicy. We can do hard things. I keep saying that all week long. We can do hard things.
God bless it. All right, so I want to bring Megan in. Yogi, can you help me understand the best way? Like, can we just say Megan, da-da, or did we have a question, or like, how are
Just
we?
get Megan up in here.
I know.
She will
She-
hold all her own.
That's
How about Megan, as you've heard us, what's resonating for you?
I'm going to take a minute to introduce myself.
Mhm.
Halito, everyone. Saha Chifo, Yat Megan Pizer, Chata Oyosia, Barry Pizer on Key, Beverly Payne, Supokni, Oklahoma Atachata, Aloriant Atali. What I just said was, hello, my name is Megan Pizer. I'm a Choctaw woman. I am the daughter of Barry Pizer and the granddaughter of Beverly Payne. The Choctaws removal land is in a place currently known as Oklahoma. Our traditional and ancestral lands are currently known as Mississippi, but I'm coming to you from Wawiantanag, or where the curved shores meet a place currently known as Detroit. I introduced myself to you in Chattanooga, the Choctaw language, in the way that I have been taught by elders in my community, because when we introduce ourselves, we are saying where we know from, which means saying who claims us, the people who claim us. So I tell you my family's names, my Choctaw family names, so that you know whose knowledge raised me, taught me, brought me into my knowing space. And the lands that I know from, I'm going to drop here in the chat something that I use when I teach. This is Eugenia Zarowski's article called Where Do You Know From? And this is how I have my students introduce themselves in the classroom. Where you know from is important because it's where your knowledge is, it's where your relationships are, it's where your allegiances and your values are. And so I've always been taught to introduce myself that way. And that's where land acknowledgements come from, is the Indigenous requirement to always say what land you know from. And y'all's conversation is just so on fire today. And I'm so grateful, Jessica and Yodit and Teresa, for y'all inviting me into this space where y'all are thinking so transformatively about land relationships. I wrote down, you asked this question early on about how do we think about place? Are we saying place? Are we saying land? When I moved to Michigan for my job, I'm an associate professor of literature at Oakland University. I learned to say land and water because Michigan is a land of waters, and Native women, Anishinaabe women specifically, are water keepers. Women's bodies create the waters of life in the womb. And so Anishinaabe women are water keepers, whereas men cannot create life through their bodies. So they are fire keepers because that is the only living thing they can tend to. And so I learned about,
just hold on one second.
I learned about being water keepers, and it was powerful. How to say land and water.
Hold on.
Hold on, I have two more things. But I most often am referring to land and to place using Indigenous words for garden because of the intimacy of garden. Garden is a place where you grow and flourish. Garden is a space of nurturing. So the work that I do at Oakland on our Native American heritage site, we call it the Gittigan, which is the Anishinaabe word for garden. And when I asked for an email address for the land, I asked for it to be gittigan@oakland.edu so that the land sends emails now. You can email the land. I mean, it's me, like I'm checking the emails. But the land has this voice now. And my own home, we call Bishkokok Osapushi, which is Red Robin Garden. Osapushi is the Choctaw word for garden, because it is a place of flourishing and it makes you think about the work and the love. And if we thought of land and water and earth, right, if we thought of our relationships through garden, we would have more of a gentle and loving and kind relationship. And it would be more of a tending rather than a using. And I think those are important sort of distinctions. You were about to just like go off on
I was just
waters.
Just amen. I mean, thank God that you are a teacher, because literally everything that falls out of your mouth is a blessing to my heart and my soul. I want to just continue with this conversation, but just want to appreciate you for teaching, for naming. I felt a full body like resonance when you talked about the water women and the role of women. And I think I just want to say that the harshness and the violence that has been a theme throughout LLU, right? For me, while we are interrogating race and we're interrogating place, something that we haven't named as much of is the maleness of this process and the presence of the patriarchy in it. So I just wanted to appreciate that. And I'm still like literally, I think I'm about to levitate out of this chair. So I want to just get at it and hear more and more and more of you. We're also inviting folks as they're listening to let us know their questions of you that we will save and preserve some time for. I mean, I'm really curious about what you find possible for LLU in the spaces that you're living and working in. That feels like a good place for us to begin. And something else that's really important to me is you introduced this language of co-stewardship. So actually, before I hear you speak, can I just briefly say how we connected? Because that feels so important to why you're here.
Yes. That's the where we know from. That's where we know from meeting each other.
Yeah. Where we know one another from is an event that was held at the U of M's museum of art called Memory and Monuments. And you were tabling, and I meandered over to your table and learned that from you that at Oakland University, what started as a conversation about land acknowledgement has evolved into a land transfer back to the indigenous communities there. And so would you maybe take a couple of moments just to tell us about that project? And I'll have to tell you that a memory I have of that conversation is you telling me about the animals denning and returning. I had a visual when you said it, and it stayed kind of seared in my brain. So tell us a little bit more about what you're up to there.
Yeah. So in 2021, no, it was before that, 2019. Several of us together on campus got together and were advocating for the campus for Oakland University to adopt a land acknowledgement. We were one of the last universities that didn't have one. We took a land acknowledgement that was written by a health science student for a school project, Tara Madry, who's to St. Marie Chippewa. And we're revising that with advice from community elders, and as the university was sort of slowly moving it through the acceptance process, we came to the point where they were planning this like unveiling event of the campus land acknowledgement. And I was in a room with a bunch of administrators. I was in a Zoom room with a bunch of administrators. And I said, well, if you're having a ceremony, like, what gift will you bring? And they all like got real still and like really afraid on their faces. Because of course, even if they cared about this project, many of them had never been in ceremony in Indigenous spaces. They didn't know traditional practices or protocols. And I said, oh, it'd be great if you could have a scholarship for Native students who are unveiling, or you were hiring faculty. And I could see them scrambling because it was only like 3 or 4 months away, and that wasn't enough time to do those things. So I said, well, you could just give some land, because that seemed really easy. All you'd have to do was point to it on a map at the event and say, this is the land. And one of our associate provosts, Amy Baines Burselli, really picked up on this idea and said, why aren't we giving land? And went out and surveyed the campus for places that didn't have plans for building sites, and designated 4 acres the Native American Heritage Site. So that piece of land on our campus cannot be developed for any other use. Because we're in Southeast Michigan and there's not a tribal government down here, we were in a sticky situation because the university didn't have an immediate tribal government to return the land to. And also down here in Detroit, as I'm sure Yodi can attest to, we have quite a diverse population, and this includes the Indigenous population. We are an intertribal community. After the U.S. Indian Relocation Act of 1959, which bused tons of Native folks from our reservations to urban communities in a forced attempt to assimilate us, places like Detroit have a huge population of Native folks who are not Indigenous to the place that they live. So that's like me. I'm Native, I'm Choctaw, but I'm not Indigenous to the lands where I live on because I'm on Anishinaabe land. And so this community is difficult to serve because we don't have a government. We're sort of something that people would consider a grassroots community, but we are a community, and we gather together to practice our land practices. We gather together in community. We teach each other our land practices and share them and learn from one another. And so it was important to me that this land rematriation that Oakland did was going to be able to serve the intertribal community of Metro Detroit, many of whom live in urban areas and have no land access where they can perform their land commitments. Right? So we all have these treaties with the land that are different depending on our tribal backgrounds, but we're not able to perform those when all land around us is privatized. So by opening up this 4 acres at Oakland University, which I co-steward with the Native American Advisory Committee, we provided land access for our community. And then we gathered the community together over and over to say, come meet the land. Come walk the land and dream the land with us. What do we dream that the land could be? And then I've come back to the university, and this is how I formed this committee, the Native American Advisory Committee, with my colleague, Andrea Knutson. And this committee advocates sort of as the intermediary between the intertribal community of Metro Detroit and the university where the land is. Our 4 acres sit right next to Oakland University's nature preserve. So hundreds of acres of forest, salamander breeding areas, the beaver dam are all adjacent to this 4 acres of land that we have started to cultivate with a food forest, with sacred cedars, with a traditional medicine garden, with the Three Sisters garden, with prairie restoration. Um,
Mm.
but the work that we do out there is slow because it's at the pace of the land. And we talked about this before, and I think Jessica, you mentioned this as well, that one of the first things we did out there at the heritage site was just to stop mowing it.
Mm.
We stopped, facilities stopped spraying it, and we stopped mowing it just to see what was the land, what was the personality of the land, what was there, what were we working with, who was she? And we were just out there walking it over and over, sort of watching what grew up. And a lot of it was like this invasive crown vetch, but also we were seeing which native species were coming back. And as we stopped adding pesticides and we stopped mowing and the plants came back, then the insects came back. And now we were like beginning this food system. And when the insects come back, the birds come back, and then the small rodents come back. And there were turkey coming back, and foxes, and the deer. There are so many deer on our campus. Were bedding down in the tall grass that we hadn't mowed. And then we started to see apex predators, and we started to see birds of prey. And this
Mm.
is a huge sign of land health. When the apex predators are finding enough food sources on a land, then that means you have the whole range of the animal relative system returning to a place. So,
Mm.
one of the last days of class, I was driving up to campus, and I always take a route that's kind of circuitous so that I can drive by the heritage site. And I come to campus really early in the morning. So it's like 6:30 a.m. And I was slow down right as I approached the land so I can kind of see it. It's this great mound. It looks like a pregnant belly. And the
Mm.
mist was all around it. And then this coyote just walked across in front of me, across the land, across the road, across the land, and down into the nature preserve. And I pulled up and I rolled down my window and I just watched her as she walked down to the nature preserve and stopped several times to like turn and look back at me, like, yeah, I see you
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
And it's those moments that show me that the pace that we're moving with this heritage site and our land stewardship there is right. Even though every meeting that I go to, everybody wants to do things faster and let's have
Right.
events and what are you
Right.
growing and what are we doing and who's out here and like it wants to be like this flashy thing that you can put on posters and brochures and I'm constantly saying, no, let's do less. Let's do less better. Like I tell my students about writing, more about less. Let's do and care more about fewer, more manageable projects, tasks, ideas. So the land has returned to this robust health. Um, and we are learning a new rhythm and we are teaching that rhythm to the powers that be at a university. And universities are inherently colonialist systems of white supremacy. So they're not built to work with land relationships. They're not built to work with indigenous knowledge. So we're constantly having to find ways to showcase the quote unquote progress of the work that we do, but also to center the pace that is natural to the land, which does not operate on a fiscal year, on an academic calendar. And those are hard things for most of the places we report to sort of reckon with.
Mm.
So many strings to pull on. Um, First of all, let's let this be the first of many conversations because I have so many things I want to ask and just be in conversation. But I wonder, one of the things that really kind of broke my brain in the best way, Megan, is when you were talking about how um, the Oakland University either recently or currently was going through a land use plan update and how this site got folded into it. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit about that because I think that also has a high correspondence with what Ann Arbor is trying to think about right now. And I have another question after that, but I'm trying not to load everything on it, so I'll stay there.
Yeah, so recently Oakland University, just a couple weeks ago, brought its campus master plan, which I don't allow my students to use the word master in our classroom. I don't even use it in my course objectives. We don't master skills because it's really gross. But this master plan was establishing the purpose of land use, which I'm not sure I even really like the phrase land use. I think I prefer land stewardship for the next 10 years. And one of the things we were worried about when they started with this plan is that there would be some destruction of the heritage site, some argument that like, well, where it's at is great land for development. And there was some talk at one point about whether or not it was in the best place or if we should move it. And so we had a lot of meetings with the strategic planners, sort of emphasizing the importance of this space. And we brought them out there and they walked the land with us. They talked to our Native American student group who does a lot of the stewardship of the plants out there. They talked to students who are in my Indigenous Lit classes who spend time out there. And they started to understand what an asset this is, what an asset it is that we have this healed land, this land that brings people together, this land that is focused on community. And as they were sort of cementing this campus master plan, one of the things that we were able to do progressively was not only to safeguard the heritage site in that plan so that it can't be developed without the collaboration of the Native American Advisory Committee, is to plan for ways to connect the site to the rest of campus. So there's a sort of a broken down trail system through the preserve, and could we better connect the heritage site to the preserve? Could we get some sidewalks going out there so that our students and community members who use mobility aids can more easily access the site? We need shade out there. So we are about to try to organize a fundraising plan to build a pavilion out there to provide shade or weather protection. But when they wrote this campus master plan, the plan for the heritage site was to follow the Native American Advisory Committee's plan. And to get a board of trustees to agree that the plan for a huge space of land is to follow somebody else's plan and for that to be written into and accepted. And then we organize that plan. It's an organic document, it changes, but then I make sure it is regularly deposited into university archives so that there's lots of record of it. Was huge because that is turning over the stewardship completely to a committee that is dominantly Native led. And that's just so different for a university to do, to sort of acknowledge that they shouldn't be in charge of making decisions in this space, that they're unqualified to make decisions in this space, and that they don't know the community that it serves. So that's where we're at now. We are now sort of secure in our heritage site, but also secure in knowing that we are responsible to the space, to the community members who depend on the space, to the plant and animal relatives who are living and thriving there. So one thing about being Indigenous is that you don't get to have land privileges, you have land responsibilities. And I wish that's something that the broader public thought of themselves, is not, do I have privilege of land access, but what are my land responsibilities? And that comes through land relationships that are not extractive, which most people don't have any land relationships that aren't extractive. And when I tell my students this, I challenge them to just like pick a plant at like a park, and I'm like, just go visit it regularly. So you're not trying to have like some kind of experience at the park with your picnic blanket and your book and your little drink or whatever, right? Because that's still extractive. But just have this generous relationship. Go visit this plant every day. Notice how it changes. And you start to develop a relationship, a stewardship, a partnership that's non-extractive. And I think our university is finding a path that is enabling an institution to do that, which I didn't know was possible until we started this work.
I remember, Megan, in one of our conversations leading up to today, I am so excited by everything that you're saying, and I am holding our housing crisis and our affordability crisis and how much trouble many people, but most especially folks from marginalized identities and communities, have accessing parts of our community. And I said, I don't know. I think one of the things that I said was, I don't know how to reconcile the two. And also, I don't know how to scale up what you're talking about. And your immediate response, you so lovingly, and it wasn't shut me down, but you just redirected it just very quickly to say, that's actually not the first question. The first question is just to get started, and then to do the next thing and the next thing. And that was really helpful for me when it comes to
Mhm.
land use things. I think one of the first things I jump to is, how does this scale? How does this translate to other communities? How can we, copy paste this, from here to there? And your point was, maybe that's not the question.
Yeah, so often we're focused on the end goal, and we've been trained that way, right? That's colonialism, always wanting to be extractive of us and our time and our energy and our goals, right? It always needs you to have this star that you're working for, and then it wants you to work more hours towards it and harder. And your star isn't a star unless everybody else can exploit it. And what we do out on the heritage site, I've really learned from Indigenous matriarchs in my life who have encouraged me to focus on the process, the experience, because that's what you learn from. And it always shocks me how many of the things that I teach in my own classrooms that I have to learn separately in my own life. So as I'm telling my students, like
Oh,
writing
yeah.
is a process, it's not a product. Um, I had to learn that about my land relationships. I had to learn that they're about being together with the land, being together with other people who are knowledgeable about the land, and learning from them by doing, not saying like, I want to have all of this product from a garden, but saying, I want to plant a garden.
Mm.
Not what am I going to extract from it, but I want to do the work of learning about the seeds and what is appropriate for where I live and when is their life cycle and how do I support them in that life cycle, and am I going out and checking on them, and if there was a storm, did I go out there and provide them literally my corn, like pulling it back up off of the ground and staking it. So just thinking so much more about the process and doing the next right thing rather than what are my steps. You're never going to know all the steps. There's going to be so many unknowns in the journey. I'm a planner. I love to plan, and then I get let down when my plans don't go well. So I just stopped planning because the land has a plan, and I will just follow it. And I'll go out there and I'll observe, and I'll see what's needed, and I will give. And that's what community is showing up in the small ways and giving what's needed. And community doesn't have to be this great big thing that we've imagined it, right? We've
Mm.
imagined it to be, it's the whole church all coming together for multiple things. But really, it's like, do you have a group chat with the people on your street?
Mhm.
So that when the power goes out or something floods or a tree goes down, someone can say, we don't have power. Can I send my kid over to shower? Can I put my food in your freezer? It's
Mhm.
being involved in a local organization, not all the local organizations, so that then there's cross pollination across all of the small groups. And when
Mhm.
we have an event on the land, I invite my people and everybody else invites their people, and then multiple communities kind of come together and overlap in land stewardship because land doesn't belong to any single one of us. So we're supposed to be cross pollinating
Mhm.
land stewardship. And those things are organic. They can't be hyper controlled and
Mhm.
planned. And you have to just be willing to let the process unfold and to be focused on doing the next right thing, energizing the next thing. I'm planning to energize around our Three Sisters planting in the next month. And then I have no plans after that, but come out and spend time with the garden, check on the garden. And I
Mm.
have to be willing for that to be okay.
Yeah. Megan, do you have time for a question or two?
I sure do, yeah.
So, one person asked if maybe you could share some more about the ways you created both a process and an experience that your Native co-stewards felt was worthy of their engagement. And they qualify that by saying not so much a checklist, but to help us understand the scale of what was required for you, in addition to the substantive institutional support you had.
Yeah. So mainly, and this really ties back to, Udit and Jessica, what you've been saying is to ask the people what they desire, the community that you're serving. You know, I brought together all these folks from the intertribal community in Metro Detroit, and I said, "What do you dream? What do you wish that we had? You know,
Mhm.
if this was available, what would you absolutely go to the workshop for, come out to the land for?" So they were telling us,
Mhm.
we wish we had a place where we could do this and this and this. We wish that somebody would host a workshop like this. When we
Mhm.
were bringing speakers, we said, who do you want to learn from? And they said, wouldn't it be amazing if, you know, we can't travel to see where these people are all at, but what if Oakland could use its power to bring Linda Black out? And Luke and Linda Blackout
Mhm.
came and led workshops and walked the land with us because that's who our community wanted to learn from. So
Mhm.
we let the community lead. That means you have to be a part of the community in order for them to lead you. You know, if you're a leader in a land space, you have to be a part of the community. I have to go to be a part of my community. I have to go to other land events that my community members are hosting. I help people move. I help them plant their gardens. I chat with them about what we're doing about caring for our ducks and chickens during bird flu, so that I know who the people are to reach out to and say,
Mhm.
what do you wish we had? And then those are the things I write into our 10-year plan. But then, like the marketing folks and the fundraising folks, I'm like, we
Mhm.
want space to do a hide camp and eventually be tanning and
Mhm.
scraping and preparing hides, because that's not something anybody has a space to do in
Mhm.
Detroit. But we could do that. But I only know that that's something people would drive, you know, it's Metro Detroit. People are going to drive 40 minutes for that because it's
Mhm.
not anywhere else. And what if I leveraged my privilege at an institution that has wealth from stolen land and bodies that we could give back? So it's
Mhm.
so much about listening because people will come if you give them what they need.
Can you qualify who were you listening to? You've used the word community, but can you tell me
Yeah,
specifically who you're?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to Native, Black, and mixed folks who live in Southeast Michigan in the Metro Detroit area. So
Mhm.
I meet most of these folks through the intertribal indigenous community. When I moved here, I went to Indian Health because that's where I always got all of my health services as a child.
I dropped them
And
in the
I
chat, by the way.
Excellent. Yeah, I went there. I was going to feast events. I was just meeting people, standing in line
Mhm.
for, you know, corn soup, chatting with people. And they said, oh, do you come to this seed event? And here's some seeds I've been growing out. And come to this food workshop and come to this elders sharing night. And I just started going to things and talking to people. And here's my number. Are you growing? What are you growing this year? Text me if you have this problem with your tomatoes.
Mhm.
Um, I started going to the sugar bush in Detroit where we were tapping trees. Um, and so I was listening to the people who were already here, who already had land relationships, who knew far more than I did about this land. And I was learning about what they already knew and I was listening to what they were dreaming of, right? We dream of being able to do these things, but we don't have a place. We
Mhm.
dream of our community having these resources, but we don't have them. Um,
Mhm.
and I just tried to let their knowledge and their needs lead me,
Yeah.
because even though I'm in a place of privilege and leadership as a university professor,
Right.
um, I'm not the person who knows what is needed here. I'm the person who needs to listen to the people with experience and to practice the experience they tell me to. Megan, you need to plant a garden. Megan, you need to grow out these seeds.
Mhm.
So I do, to learn the
I think
lessons that
about,
I need to
yeah.
learn.
I think about that a lot, like those of us that are bridges, right? And also about how we use our institutional privilege and power to move the needs and the desires of those folks we're bridging. And Jess was kind enough to drop in the chat for those of y'all that are with us, just a request for a little more space before we wrap up. So we know that some of you have already or may need to move on. We thank you. I never want to rush when that emergence is happening, and we do respect your time. So if you need to head out, we understand. Just you have some final thoughts or anything on your mind? And then Megan, I am going to ask if there's anything that you want to share that you've not had a moment to before we wrap up.
Well, I just want to, two things, I think. I love that this conversation is in part me stalking intellectual girl crushes that I have. And I'm just like, Megan seems cool. I want to talk more. And Yodit seems cool. I
The
want to talk
stalking thing is a trend, baby. We're going to get you together.
we'll put me in a self-help group at some point. But I'm just appreciating that following women that I admire around seems to pay off in great conversations. I'm also, Megan, I'm beholding deep excitement about possibilities and deep uncertainty about practically how that plays out. Not the uncertainty of fear, but the uncertainty of what's the next step. For me and for housing organizers, that is a deep curiosity and uncertainty that I have. So I think those are the two things that I'm holding.
Someone in chat, actually, my good friend Jarrett said, "Thank you, Megan, for so clearly describing what a generous relationship with nature can look like. My social study teacher colleagues and I have been taught relations over resources, or all our relations rather than natural resources. And I found it helpful to hear about OU's rematriation process. Just knows that one of my favorite mantras is that the revolution we long for is rooted in relationships. And that is so counterintuitive to those of us that are working across systems or working at that scaled level. It seems like it takes too long and it's too many resources and all of that. But I think my learning and affirmation today, Megan, from you is how it actually helps us to be more effective in creating what it is that the communities we belong to and the land that we're stewarding needs, as opposed to what often is we think we have the answer, right? And that someone told me a story yesterday about when Cory Booker and some tech guys and whatever like had $100 million investment. They were going to reimagine public school in Newark, and it tanked, right? And I think if we pulled it apart, although I have not, if we pulled it apart, a lot of it would be about folks, and I've been this person before, that's in a room making a decision for others who are not there, and we get it wrong, and also just want to hold that lots of folks are trying this on and are challenged in a place like Washtenaw County, where you have really small numbers of minoritized and marginalized folks. It can be challenging and also taxing. So by no means do we not hold that there is nuance, but wherever possible, when we can, as Mother Hooks, calls us to pull those folks to the center and listen. Not only do we create, wonderful relationships with them, but also, as you know, today with our natural kin as well. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I just want to wrap up by saying two things. One is just in response to Jessica, you're like, I'm feeling so much feelings of uneasiness. And in my classroom, I always tell my students, if you feel uncomfortable, you're doing it right. If you feel comfortable,
thank you.
If you're comfortable, you're in the system. You're riding the system. If you want change, you have to feel uncomfortable. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, you're doing it right. And I will look at their faces some days and they just look so uncomfortable. And I was like, you look like you're doing it right today. Remember, if it's uncomfortable, you're doing it right. So embrace the feelings of discomfort, embrace that is a good sign. I feel uncomfortable all the time doing this work. And I just try to remind myself that that's the gift, right? Discomfort is what keeps you alert, and comfort is what makes you passive. That's my second point.
Yep.
So I got off on talking about teaching and I forgot my second point. It was that so many of you, you're doing these great projects, right? You're looking to find housing solutions and revolutions, And I see a lot of you in the chat talking about your projects. And then the thing I see in common is like the lack of people. Like we don't have people. We don't know who to talk to. We don't know who the Indigenous people are. We don't have enough bodies to do the work. And my thing I want to say to you is you have to create community before you can put the community to work. And that community, if it's based in land, it will grow in all the other ways. And I don't say this just to sort of be cheesy and like that's what your local Native person needs to say. But when people build their own land relationships, they advocate for land relationships adjacent to them. So as we have done the work on the heritage site, and we've brought all kinds of community partners out, museums and historical societies, student groups, nonprofits, all kinds of people have come out to events we've had on the land, we call them land stewardship days. And we're like, we have seed from U.S. Fisheries, Fish and Wildlife, and we're going to be spreading it. Come out and spread seed with us. As people come out, they build this relationship and they're excited to hear on the listserv, to read the blog post, what's going on. And then when other things are happening in adjacent land needs, like the beavers built a dam in the preserve and it was destroying a bridge, and the university policy had been to destroy those beavers. And like tons of people came out to rally around supporting the beaver stewardship of that place. They had created a wetlands. It was going to be incredibly amazing. Everyone came out to support campus sustainability. Everyone has come out to support the preserve. So getting people invested in one land relationship, even if what you're doing is saying, every other Friday, I'm grilling at the park. You don't have to bring anything, just come. But then people will start to bring things, right? Like if you're the leader, just grill at the park. And then somebody who has come 3 times, you're like, now you're a leader too. You have to bring Coke with you next time for everybody to drink, right? And it will become a community. And then people will care about that park and they'll say like, why aren't there any flowers here? Maybe we could get together and plant some flowers. And then we'll say, what about those houses down the block that nobody's taking care of? Could we figure out how to find a future for those houses because they're adjacent to the land that we love? And the land work will grow, and the commitments that people have, their cross communities will intersect, and they'll say, oh, I know somebody who lives on that block, let me ask. Or I know somebody who works for the city, let me find out. Because they'll be invested in land. So if you're doing any kind of work and you don't know how to get the people, and you're like, I'm marketing, we're on social media, we're like, just start doing things regularly in the land and offer a space. And don't ask people to bring anything. Just be like, come as you are. We'll feed you. Always have food. You have to always have food.
Create value.
An Indigenous role.
Come. Yeah.
And it will grow as long as you're patient and you're consistent. And that's what we need. You know, that's what parents provide, is patience and consistency. That's what land provides, is patience and consistency. And in my experience, that is where growth and flourishing happens.
I love that. I love that as a place to wrap up, if that feels okay for you, Megan. Yeah. Oh, deep breaths. You immediately made me think about barbecues we would have at Belle Isle. So thank you for that. And now I want barbecue. And I hope you all have some barbecue. We continue this conversation on Discord. Don't forget that. Each week we have a new prompt. Teresa, I think, has already dropped some things in the chat for us. I think this is the point with which maybe we're either quiet or we play some music.
That's it for this episode of Liberated Land Use. We're your co-hosts, Yodit Mesfin-Johnson and Jessica A.S. Lita. Deep thanks to team members Liz Trudeau, Marcella Omans-McKeeby, and Justin Schell for making everything look and sound as good as it does. To contact us, email hello@futureroot.co. Our theme music is CS Music by Chandrakant Shinde. See you next time on Liberated Land Use.